What is the difference between surrendering to something and giving up on something? This is something that I've always struggled with. As somebody who, on one hand, can be very, very driven toward my goals, but on the other hand, I consider myself to be quite spiritual and I like to just let things flow and take their natural course. So there's always been this weird dichotomy that I've faced of these two seemingly contradictory sides of me. Well, there's an amazing book that I stumbled across a few years ago now called Power versus Force by David Hawkins. And it helped me to understand how the state of surrender doesn't have to mean giving up on something entirely. What he talks about in that book is that force is something where you are trying to manipulate the world around you to achieve your goals or get what you desire. However, power, on the other hand, is where you don't give up. In fact, it's the opposite. You can still pursue the things you want with the same determination that you've always had. However, you're not trying to force or manipulate the world around you. And when you're pursuing your goals, you do so with the understanding that the only thing you can control is your own reactions and responses to the world around you. You can't control the people around you. You can't control circumstances. You can't control the external world. And when you approach problems with that knowingness, it puts you in a state of power where things will begin to unfold naturally as you move toward them. And this is the key. Surrender doesn't mean saying, I'm not going to try anymore. Surrender means I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to keep pursuing my goals, but I'm going to be okay with what unfolds around me, knowing that the only thing I do control is my reactions and responses to what happens. Now, don't get me wrong, it's easy to forget this sometimes. And sometimes I do find myself trying to control and manipulate the world around me and struggling with this dichotomy. But it's a very, very powerful reminder that when you are working towards something, it will allow you to get into this more grounded place. And what I've often found is that when I am approaching problems from a place of power as opposed to force, ideas begin to flow to me naturally. The circumstances just begin to arise in a more favorable way because I'm not blindly focused on what I think is the right way to achieve a goal. And this is really the key. When we're forcing something, we're forcing our ideas, our beliefs, our concepts of how we think something should be unfolding. Whereas again, if we're in that place of power, knowing we don't control the external world, we have a more broadened perspective. So we are open to new things arising. We're open to new people, to new circumstances, to new plans, or to changes in plans that can help us to achieve our goal. Where again, if you imagine you're coming at a problem from a place of forcing it, you probably have an idea about how you want that thing to go, how you want this plan to unfold. Whereas you might still be able to get to the outcome you desire, but if you could go with the natural flow of life and how things are unfolding in front of you, you might find a path that will allow you to get to your goal even quicker than the plan that you have set in place. And this is the crazy thing about life. I always seem to think that I know best about everything. It's like this crazy audacity and ego that we have to even think that we know the best way of achieving something and not wanting the universe to unfold things in its own way. Instead, we think we know best. And how crazy is that to think that in this entire cosmos, we think our tiny pea-sized brains can actually understand all the nuance and intricacies in place. We think we know how to achieve our goals better than the universal forces. Whereas if we step back from this attachment, from this forcing of wanting things to go our way, and instead we just observe what's happening around us, you will find that there are plenty of other paths to achieving your goals. And please understand this. Stepping back does not mean giving up. Stepping back simply means reevaluating what you thought was the right way and instead looking at what is, what is unfolding around you, and how can you best move forward with what you have in front of you right now to still moving towards your goal. At least from what I believe, the difference between giving up on something to surrendering.